Thank you. Who in this room remembers how they felt back in September when Hurricane Irma was bearing down in South Florida? I know we thought it was going to be an absolute catastrophe here. We thought we were going to lose our home, our business, and I think most of the state thought it was something conceivably that we may not recover from. It was truly, truly terrifying. But when all was said and done, most of Florida, and us personally, we were spared the travesty of this storm. Our business was there, our home, and it was a wonderful feeling. Many, many were not lucky. The worst case scenario actually transpired in a place that's part of America, Puerto Rico, that already had been laid waste, and been destroyed in many ways, economically, culturally, well before Hurricane Maria, the most severe storm and hurricane to hit this island in 80 years, did incredible damage. And so as we're sitting in the comfort of our home with our air conditioning running, our refrigerator keeping our food cool, we started thinking to ourselves, is there something we can do to make a difference? And maybe it isn't the obvious thing. Because after all, the federal government was overwhelmed, the traditional relief agencies were overwhelmed. This was a third hurricane in less than a month. And so what do? Do we write a check? Do we just go on Facebook and write thoughts and prayers, or what we call slacktivism? We didn't feel that was acceptable. We felt we had to do something different. But what would that be? What was really interesting is a dear friend of mine, for many, many years, Laura Richardson, had an audacious idea. Now, Laura grew up in Puerto Rico, in Aguadilla, an area that was really off the grid as far as emergency response. And she sent an email out shortly after the storm to a few select friends with this crazy plan. She's like, you know what? Why don't we just go in country and do it ourselves? Now, I've known Laura for a long time. She's done some incredible things like this. So we were ready to follow her into battle. She just said, basically, I'm coming down the next flight. I'm putting the out of office on my email, and she runs marketing for Discovery Channel, and we're all in. And so we were about to learn something that we had no idea what it was going to be, in the form it was going to take, which was how this ripple of compassion can create a wave. Now, as you recall, in the wake of the storm, probably many of you donated. And what we saw in the news day after day was reams of supplies, food, water, all this pouring into South Florida, ready to be staged. But you know what? It was just stuck in warehouses. It wasn't going anywhere. And even on the half chance it did make it down to the island, again, languishing in warehouses, these heartbreaking scenes of supplies rotting on the airport tarmac, being destroyed. So what made us think that us, a bunch of amateurs, could do the job? After all, we're not a nonprofit, we're not professionals, but maybe that's actually not a bad thing in this case. Now, why was this? Well, we're from TV people. Now, I know everybody doesn't watch TV anymore, but TV actually still matters, and it brings an incredible skill set. And what that is by nature, we're producers. We solve problems. That's what producers do. We're marketers, we produce, we're absolutely tenacious, there's no choice, we're not giving up. And then we have relationships, and in this case, we had relationships in the aviation business, so we thought, maybe there's something there. Well, so out of the blue, literally within days, I mean literally days, we created this pop-up, what we call hacker DIY humanitarian organization. It was called Operation Puerto Rico Care Lift. Now again, we're not a nonprofit, so why would you choose, with a panoply of options in front of you, to invest in a bunch of amateurs? It's crazy, right? Well, we felt we had to make a unique promise. So our promise was pretty simple, is that we had managed to get an aircraft donated. We paid for the gas. We had a distribution network in place, and that was so key because Laura has friends and family on that island that not only were in need, but were going to be neighbors, helping neighbors to make sure those supplies got in the right hands. But I think an edge that we really tried to think about was that we were going to take you on the journey with us. We were going to be accountable and show you how this was unfolding every step of the way. You weren't just going to write a check or PayPal that was going to somehow vanish into the ether. That was our promise. So we set up a GoFundMe page and we got started. Now I know social media, Facebook at times has become hatebook. And probably, somewhat derided right now in today's culture, but for us, social media was absolutely a critical component to this whole operation functioning. And why that was we had literally 10 social media feeds going. We were blowing up everybody's social media feeds. And we used social media to fundraise, to recruit volunteers, but also, again, this key point is to be accountable. We want you to see it unfolding and thus create this, what we call, kind of thought of as this virtuous viral cycle of people getting involved, because that was going to be key. It was a sum of many, many people. This one gentleman here actually donated 8 times on the right there, and even did a birthday challenge. And that story went over and over and over. So social media was such a key instrument in making this happen. So again, we've got this airplane, and we go into absolute overdrive. People from around the world, I'm literally serious, dropped what they were doing, some we knew, some we didn't, and moved into warehouses. My wife was maxing out the credit cards, became a regular at Costco, writing $25,000 checks, because over the course of a weekend, we raised $45,000 on GoFundMe. People made incredible sacrifices. My son sacrificed skipping school to come help pack in the warehouse. I know it was a great, really tough gesture on his part. And then people, again, we knew, just dropping what they were doing, like sweating, packing, loading, buying, rinse, repeat. It was not glamorous work. These people were doing it because they were given a platform to do something special and profound, and they jumped off and they did it. It was gorgeous. This was not a corporate-driven initiative. Again, this was amateur hour. So the moment of truth arrived. This high-tech conveyance, this beautiful, magnificent airplane, is going to take us down the island and be our salvation. We've got 7,000 pounds of food, water, medicine ready to go. We've got the FAA permits. The engines are roaring up. And we get a heartbreaking piece of news, is that our flight has been canceled. Now, what does this mean? We are going to fail. We're going to not deliver on our promises. People are expecting our help, and all the people who have been a part of this were expecting this to succeed. It was absolutely devastating. And trying to find a backup, impossible, because all the airlines, and they were already occupied, the shipping companies, and frankly, $8 a pound to ship down there, that was not an option. So we madly started calling everybody we knew in the airline industry. And you know what? Someone actually answered the call. Spirit Airlines, this flying big yellow Chiquita banana with wings, would be our salvation. Spirit Airlines, based here in Fort Lauderdale, had many employees and team members who were affected by this storm. They did not do this for the publicity, as what a phrase that's been called to us, the charity arms race. They did this because it was the right thing to do. They gave us 1 week, and instead of a 6,000 pound capacity jalopy with wings barely holding together, we got this beautiful big A321 Airbus that could carry 18,000 pounds of payload. And so in a week, now we really had to fill it. $100,000 of food, medicine, raised. Under every seat was pallets of water. And we were given access to this incredible woman named Barb Webster, who, yes, we call her the guru of giving, because she led this chat. She not only bought this airline with us, but she activated this entire airline behind us. They did so much more than provide transportation. So anyway, the critical moment, the day of truth arrives. We're landing on the runway in Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. Now, everything you've heard, we were about to experience. It's dangerous, there's no electricity, there's fences down at the airport, there's security breaches. God only knows what was waiting for us. It was, fair to say, a tense, tense flight. And you know what? As we landed, we saw for our very own eyes that Puerto Rico, again, part of America, this island was the scene of an apocalypse. As you can see, the verdant landscape was stripped of all its foliage. It looked like an asteroid had plummeted onto one of the terminal buildings and destroyed it. It was as bad as anybody expected, and it was something you couldn't unsee. But yet, as we loaded our supplies into Lufthansa Technique, our relief hangar, we immediately saw signs of optimism. The Puerto Rican people were not going to be destroyed by this. They were unbound, and that gave us enormous lift, enormous possibilities. So the flight's being unloaded. The clock is ticking. This plane has to get back in the air because, again, it's not safe for it to be there. So we have to unload this aircraft, all the food, the water, the supplies. It was like a human chain. It was astounding to be a part of. And then our distribution began. And this was so key, is that it became about fair, equitable distribution of food, water, supplies into people's hands, and via food markets, door to door, and being very accountable so everybody got their fair share, and showing this on social media so you could, again, be a part of it and maybe donate some more. And we got a lot of feedback on the ground as to what people really needed. The worst thing you can do is send things down that people do not need. So we had anecdotal feedback constantly. Every time that airplane would come in, there'd be signs like this posted on the airfield fence. Now Spirit raised the ante. Planes going back empty, that's unacceptable. So they gave us 221 seats to bring back people from this island. Now, Boy, that's a tough thing to make reservations for a flight when you can't even get a phone. But 500 people showed up for 221 seats. Now, the clock's ticking. We've got to get this thing off the ground, and we've got 40 people in wheelchairs, families. You've got to make really heartbreaking decisions on who stays and who goes. It is really one of the harshest parts of charity. But finally, the plane did take off, and there was ebullient cheers in the cabin. People were thrilled that they were actually leaving. However, reality set in as a storm actually came over the airfield. People became melancholy. They did not know when they were going back to where they were from, what they were going to do, and it really became a tough situation. We did our best to cheer up the flight. My wife actually fulfilled her lifelong dream of becoming a flight attendant, and I'm in so much trouble for using this photo, but so be it. It's out there. But we basically strip mined a Walgreens and catered the flight. And I'll tell you what, people had never enjoyed airline food so much. So when they landed, this was another thing, is many people had no place to go. So Spirit and us together created aftercare lift. Again, on the fly, amateur hour. Food, vouchers, hotel vouchers, cash tickets to go elsewhere and to keep helping with their journey. Because again, they just need to get out. And the most amazing thing we heard from this whole experience was people saying, you know, the food and the sustenance, that's all great. But you know what? These proud people said, the best message is that we are not marginalized. We are Americans and we matter, and thank you for that. That was gorgeous to us. So this thing was done. The mission was complete, one and done. Spirit gave us the aircraft. We thought it was over. It's pretty hard to walk away from a crisis. And Spirit said, you know what? Let's let it go. Let's keep going. So over the course of the next really 2 months, we had over 30 flights, free. They never charged a nickel for anything. They incurred unimaginable expense. $225,000 in cash and relief supplies went down that island. Many more people pulled off the island rescued. It was an incredible thing, and it went on and on. So what do we learn? How does a ripple become a wave? Well, maybe even become this idea of a tsunami of compassion. Well, some interesting lessons is, again, if people are given the chance, they will step up. If people understand that they can truly make a difference, they will step up. Compassion truly is contagious. And if you're not afraid to fail, and you actually look at setbacks and mistakes as opportunities, that's an incredible thing. Everybody who was a part of this, and it was hundreds and hundreds of people, did this because they wanted to make a difference, and they could. So one day, somebody like Laura Richardson is going to phone you, email you, text you, Snapchat you, IG you, whatever, and they may ask you, can you come down, drop what you're doing and make a difference? How will you respond? Will you be a part of making compassion, a ripple, turn to a tsunami, a wave? Thank you.